Well, again, I had a lot to do with that because I always believed in a great bass beat and a good beat. And actually, it turned out to be a big dance beat. It became number one disco beat around the world with Rock Your Baby,
Mm.
and then the Caseys, and then the Peter Browns, and the T Connection.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. I guess I believed in, and I kept going. I didn't try to copy disco music per se.
I mean, but Bohemian music seems to have featured fairly heavily in your roster. I mean, there was the beginning of the end, you did Funky Nassau, and T-Connection, Do What You Want to Do, both from the Bahamas.
Yeah, those are the two big things that came out of the Bahamas, actually.
Yeah. Do you think the Miami sound did have that sort of
Yeah,
Caribbean flavour to it?
you had Latin, Caribbean, African American, had the whole thing going.
One of my
Plus,
personal favourites around this time was Jimmy Bohorn. Can you tell me something about him and how you discovered him?
well, he was hanging. Oh, he hung around the studio in the late '60s, and I cut a few things with Jimmy, and I always liked the way he sang. And I turned him over to Casey to produce him.
That's when it really began to blossom for him, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's when he had Spank and Dance Across the Floor, and
Mm.
a couple of real big ones. That's when Jimmy broke out.
Do you
But
still keep in touch with him?
yes, I do. I keep. In fact, I think I'm going to go see Casey next week at the Hard Rock Cafe here in Miami.
You have this kind of voice that tells me you don't fall out with very many people.
No, I'd rather keep it on a nice level. It seems easier that way.
Listen, you stay there,
Yeah.
because this is Jimmy Bohorn. I'll be back with you after this. This is Dance Across the Floor. Jimmy Bohorn. Dance Across the Floor. Right, Charles. Hudson Soul Show. We are talking to the legend that is Henry Stone. Now, without doubt, the band that gave Henry the biggest success was Casey and the Sunshine Band. And there's a great story about how they came together. From my understanding, in the early days, they had some difficulty in finding the key ingredient to their sound, and it was only on a visit to the Bahamas that they discovered Junkanu, and it all fit into place. Is that correct? And what was Junkanu?
Well, a little thing from the Bahamas, but actually, Casey worked for me in the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Casey worked for me in the warehouse, and Rick came along. Rick Finch's partner. He was a 16-year-old student engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw them hanging out together 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to put things together in my studio. And I thought it'd be a good idea to hook them up.
Mm-hmm.
So I hooked them up, and of course, really, one of the first big things that they did is they brought a track down to me in my office one morning about 3 o'clock in the morning, and they said, "Hey, we got this track that Casey can't sing," and George McRae was sitting in the office,
Yeah.
and I brought him up to the studio, and we sang "Rock Your Baby" in 3 cuts, 3 takes, and "Rock Your Baby," of course, after 30 million records later.
Worldwide. Smash, super smash. Remind me, how many hits did Casey get in total?
7 number 1 hits.
Did they not equal the Beatles record of number one hits in one year?
Yeah, they started to. Yes, they did.
I mean, you also licensed them to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
That's right.
We should license a few more tracks in that album.
Boogie Shoes with the
Yeah.
Casey track, and Ralph McDonald's Calypso Breakdown.
Yeah. Is it right that Rock Your Baby went top 10 in over 80 countries?
That's right. Number 1 in every country in the world.
I mean, Casey seems to have revived his career in Europe after a real lull in the 80s. Why do you think that US artists struggle in their own country, but still retain an audience in Europe?
I don't know, because I noticed my a few of the new artists that I'm working with, not new, but like Gwen McRae.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a very successful CD I just put out with her, is reviving in Europe.
Yeah, so we love Gwen McRae on this show.
Hmm.
Betty Wright, you had her on one of your labels, Alston, for a while.
Yeah, Betty Wright was on Alts, and I put her on Atlantic for a while to get her that national distribution that I needed at the time.
How important an artist was she to you?
Very, very, in the early years, very important.
I mean, even today, Clean Up Woman's instantly recognisable, which is a real testament to its strength, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Little Beaver on guitar, by the way, playing that introduction.
I didn't know that.
Yes, that's Little Beaver.
We still play her loads on the show. Slip and Do It, Where is the Love, etc.
Yeah.
Is it right that she discovered It was Betty Wright who discovered Gwen and George McCrae.
Well, she had a little, yeah, they used to do some backup singings for Betty. In the studio, did a little backup work, and
Yeah.
Betty brought him to the studio, and that's how a lot of the artists got involved with me. They were brought in by Jimmy Bowen or by K.O. Clarence Reed Clarence Reed brought a few artists to me,
Yeah. Henry, stay there. I'm going to play a Betty Wright track. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more, and then we'll say goodbye, okay? But we're not saying goodbye yet. This is Betty Wright. This is Slip and Do It.
That makes a good record too.
Slip and Do It. It's the great Charles Funkin Soul Show. We're talking to one of the most important men in the world of dance music, Mr. Henry Stone. Henry, the disco is dead movement in the late 70s must have hit you really hard. But you bounced back and now you run Henry Stone Music. And I've had a look at the website, www.henrystone.com. And there's some great releases there, mate.
Don't forget, it's henrystonemusic.com. That's the website.
henrystonemusic.com. And there's some great releases there, man.
Yes, I have. I have some great old releases, old Lattimore's, J.P. Robinson, Jimmy Bohorn.
Yeah.
Just a lot of great things from the 60s and the early 70s.
There seems to be a lot of original funk in amongst all this.
Yes. I have 4 volumes of Miami Funk Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Brilliant.
Really funky, man.
Send them over, man. Send them over. Listen, how about the hip-hop revolution? Did you ever see your fair share of royalties from the samples? Because a lot of big hits sampled TK material.
Yeah, I saw a good portion of it, but I had a very big hip-hop record. I was one of the early starters with Nucleus.
You've done everything.
With Nucleus Jam on it.
Listen, does music still excite you?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
How old are you now, Henry? Do you mind me asking?
Well, I'm in my 80s.
You're in your 80s.
Uh-huh.
And I read a great quote from you that says, when other people may have taken up golf or played pool, I made records.
That's right. I'll give you another great quote before I forget.
Go on.
From James Brown. I quit drinking about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were in our studio just goofing around. And he says, Henry Stone, you might have lost your drunk, but you didn't lose your funk.
I've heard that you're in the process of writing a book.
Yes.
Is that still a work in progress? Or
It's a work in progress and also a documentary we're trying to put together. It's just a lot of things, but it's just, you got to put it together. It's quite a job.
when you look back on